Hello and welcome to Oakville Matters. Our city calls itself a town and feels like a village when you meet folks halfway. We work together to grow harmony, safety, and prosperity for all. Here's the question we're answering on this show. How has Oakville progressed since declaring a climate emergency in June 4 years ago? And joining us to answer this question are three individuals that know the topic better than anyone else in our town. Trisha Henderson, who's the Climate Action Officer of the Town of Oakville. Swaraj, who is Manager of Corporate Strategy for the Town of Oakville. And Rija Rasul, who's the Senior Climate Officer for the Town of Oakville. Thank you for your service to the town and for joining us today. Swaraj, what is the town's overall strategy here? Are we looking after the town's role? What's our focus, the town or the public? And let's start there.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Mr. Mayor. I think we have a multi-pronged approach. We have, community energy considerations. We have corporate energy considerations as well in terms of climate action. I think one thing that we can point to that we've been doing recently is, as we've been developing the strategic plan that Council is bringing forward, which is, of course, one of the foundational documents that sets the direction for Council's long-term strategy. We've engaged the community, thousands of residents through surveys and open houses. And we've developed a new vision and a new mission that really puts environmental sustainability at the heart of it. Our new mission specifically elevates that we're serving the community in a responsible, inclusive way, dedicated to building environmental, social, and economic sustainability. Sustainability is also one of our guiding principles, newly developed. So it's another way to kind of look at our decision-making and drive our culture forward. Environmental sustainability is also one of our 4 strategic priorities. So those are just some of the ways that we're looking to kind of elevate climate and environmental considerations into our thinking and our decision-making processes. We know that municipalities are on the front line of climate action, and listing all the initiatives that we've done and tracking our progress is very important to the public and for us internally as well. And that's sort of the reason why we bring forward this annual report that updates us on the climate emergency declaration, which Council declared a few years ago, and we report on annually. And I think maybe Trisha might be well positioned to maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, Trish, please do.
Sure. So since the declaration really asked staff to embed climate considerations into each and every department, we've really obviously taken that to heart over the past couple of years. Previously in 21 and 22, we did climate risk and vulnerability assessments with interdepartmental climate teams in the corporation. And right now we're working to implement the priority actions that came out of those risk assessments. And staff are currently working to embed climate considerations into the town's emergency management program, into all aspects, such as climate response, climate preparedness, and then climate recovery if the town were to experience an extreme climate impact.
Oh, you mean like the smoke from the wildfires?
That is one, yes.
All right, well, when we passed this, I had kind of 3 targets in mind, 3 hopes in mind. One was we and all the other cities that did this, we were trying to get the provincial government and the federal government to wake up and pay attention to it, because we see them as, they're the big guys and they're the ones with the resources and they're the ones that set provincial and national policy. And we wanted them to not just come to the table, but own the table, let's say. The second one was we wanted to make sure that our municipal corporation, the town's activities were in line with our talk, so that our walk in our jobs and the services that we provide was the same as our talk, that we were aiming at the province and Canada. And then the third one was to try to encourage our citizens to also get involved and make a difference in their own lives. We had an analysis done that showed that I'm just rounding everything off. I don't think it matters whether it's 33 or 35, but our analysis showed that about a third of emissions come from our houses, and about a third come from our vehicles, from our cars. And when we look at the contribution of the town to greenhouse gas emissions, we could be perfect and the needle's not going to move because we're not very much of the town in terms of output emissions. And if everybody in town would get their emissions of their homes and their cars under control, we would make a gigantic difference in what's called the climate footprint or the ecological footprint of the town. Rija, how is it going in terms of that third set? I think we're proud of what we've done as a town in terms of the actual emissions and activities of the town itself, and we have a good, clear plan going forward. I was very gratified when the federal government came out with, up to $40,000 debt, interest-free loans to decarbonize your house. How's that working in our town? What else are we doing on the encourage people front?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little. So in April of this year, we held the council workshop on the home energy retrofit program and our proposed next steps with that work. And our approach has really been to focus on homeowner education and outreach because, as you said, there are significant rebate and incentive programs available to Canadians and Ontarians through entities like the federal government with the $40,000 0% interest loan. Enbridge also has significant rebates and incentive programs. And we've heard that the IESO and provincial government may be looking at expanding conservation incentive programs in the near future as well. So the town has really tried to raise awareness of all of these rebates and incentive programs available to Oakville homeowners. We recently launched an online resource, so a webpage dedicated to home energy retrofit 101 type of information where homeowners can go on and learn about the basics of energy retrofits, the benefits, how they can access home energy audits, as well as find a summary of all of these rebate incentive programs offered or available to them, and help determine which one might be right for them to target. So that's something that we plan to push and work with communications to develop a targeted kind of engagement plan for. And at the same time, we're also working with partners like OEC, Oakville Hydro, and Enbridge to see if there's a way to really push uptake of, for example, Enbridge's programs in Oakville so that we can see, the percentage of homeowners that might already be participating and how can we continue to accelerate adoption of those rebate programs, because like you said, there is a wide variety of them available, and I don't think we have a clear kind of understanding of how well they're being utilized to date. And our hope is that we can continue to push them and educate homeowners to at least think about considering home energy retrofits as a part of their planned renovations, or even if they're not planned, to just consider the options available to them.
Yeah. So how do we get a lot of, one of the things I hear from my friends is, well, my contribution is too small to worry about, and the cost of the home energy retrofit for me will never be paid off in savings in the life of the retrofit. Do we have an answer for that? And how's that going?
I think it can probably vary significantly depending on the type of retrofit that we're talking about. Even something as simple as converting all of your lights to LEDs would be considered an energy retrofit, or getting a smart thermostat would be considered an energy retrofit. And those are typically low cost measures that that do kind of pay for themselves very quickly. And then of course there are deeper energy retrofits that, you know, might look at your entire home energy system as a whole, like replacing a boiler or a furnace, or, you know, incorporating solar panels or something like that. And those can of course have a longer payback period, but I think there is evidence that suggests that these measures do pay for themselves, just in terms of the savings on your utility bill costs over time. So it does vary in terms of the length of the payback, but there are some of the municipalities who have recently launched and completed home energy retrofits within their community. We can see lessons from those participation rates that on the types of retrofits that homeowners have done and the various payback periods. So I would say that it can vary, but often they do pay for themselves over a set period of time.
And this Enbridge program that you referred to, can you give the viewers more detail on that?
So Enbridge has a few different rebate and incentive programs available with varying eligibility criteria. And our Home Energy Retrofits 101 page on the town's website provides a very good summary of the different criteria and what each one provides incentives for. But in terms of the kind of collaboration that we're pursuing with them, we haven't yet finalized any sort of partnership. It's something that we are still working towards very closely with OEC as a key partner. So there isn't too much that I can add on, but our website does provide a good summary of all the rebate programs.
Okay, well, thanks for that. I'm interested to unpack the acronym TCFD, and I'm also interested to urge people to never use acronyms, but what are we offering with TCFD?
Yeah, so TCFD stands for the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures. And this is essentially a standardized framework that organizations can use to disclose and evaluate climate-related risks and opportunities specific to their organization. It started as a private sector-led initiative, but recently the public sector and many municipalities like Mississauga, Toronto, and Vancouver have been incorporating the recommendations of this framework and integrating it into a part of their corporate reporting. And what it does is it provides guidance and a voluntary set of recommendations to embed climate considerations into critical functions. So in terms of the town, for example, we can use it to help integrate climate change considerations into things like capital planning, budgetary decisions, and strategic decisions, so that we can better integrate that climate lens across the town's operations.
Okay, so that sounds like community engagement is almost job one here. Trish, how are we doing on the community engagement side? And I'm really interested to know how we can track public participation, like homes converted and so on, or LED light spot, or smart thermostats installed.
Sure. So the town participates and delivers multiple kind of special events throughout the year that are, you know, dedicated to climate action. We really do try to use Earth Week and Emergency Preparedness Week as kind of incentives to get out into the community and kind of educate on these matters. The town's Oakville Ready program is also a community climate resiliency program that locates climate hubs throughout town. These hubs are there to provide assistance in times of need, in times of a climate emergency, but they're also there to demonstrate what climate resiliency actually looks like on the lot level. So they do a lot with community gardens to, you know, improve the local food security in certain areas of town. They do a lot with pollinators and stormwater management projects as well. The town of Oakville also participates in the Halton Climate Collective, which delivers a lot of youth engagement, specifically with their Generation Green conference. And this conference actually tracks, students are, encouraged to do a project throughout the year, calculate the emissions and energy saved throughout these projects and report back on them. So we're teaching the youth right there what their actions mean and to actually calculate the reductions that these actions are having in the town. As far as tracking the installation of LED lights, that's a little bit harder since they are sold across town at multiple locations. The town has participated in many LED light giveaways. We even approached small businesses back in the day to do small retrofits and things like that. Rija might have a better answer on how we can track some of those personal home energy savings. Rija?
Go
We
ahead.
did, through our, I think it was last year, we issued a homeowner survey on home energy retrofits. So we did get some sense of kind of the percentage of homeowners who have undertaken energy retrofits and the different types of retrofits. And I recall that a majority of residents who responded had already undertaken a variety of home energy retrofits, and the results of that survey are also on our community energy plan page of the town's website. But this is also something that I think we want to work towards with, for example, Oakville Hydro and Enbridge, is to better understand the levels of participation that homeowners are taking with regard to energy retrofits. And I think that's something that we would continue to further explore with those partners so that we can get a better overall picture of uptake on these things.
Well, I could see real value in that, and being aware of who's done what, because most of the estimates of our footprint are based on sort of a worst case assumption about the average homeowner, and then that's multiplied by all the homeowners in town, and that becomes what we're guilty of, and there's no allowance for this factor. What people have already done. I know in my own home we've done literally everything you can do, and when Oakville's being judged, we don't get any credit for that. but we have the satisfaction of knowing that we did the right thing. Trisha and Rija, I'm also interested in this equity and social justice objective that council gave. How are we doing on that?
Sure. So I'll speak from my point of view in some of the projects. I think this is a really great question. And it is something we try to take into consideration when implementing any of the climate actions across town. Again, I'll just speak to the Oakville Ready program, since it was designed to really help alleviate some of the vulnerabilities, whether the vulnerabilities are due to the area of town that you live in or due to your social economic status. The Oakville Ready program is there to help with local food security, to help with stormwater management, to help people prepare for any types of emergencies by helping them have the 72-hour preparedness kit handy. To have, like Oakville Ready, we have the hubs if something were to happen, such as a local flood or an ice storm. These locations will open their doors and provide help to anyone in need. And these are strategically located across town in vulnerable areas with vulnerable populations.
So I guess I hope that extends to cooling centers when there's a massive heat wave.
So all of our recreation centers and libraries are cooling centers during heat waves. We sometimes extend the hours of our splash pads and some of these recreation centers to provide relief. Our Oakville Ready hubs are not being used right now for heat alerts. A lot of times, some of these faith organizations and churches aren't even equipped with air conditioning, which is why we rely more on town facilities, pools, and splash pads.
Mm-hmm. So Swaraj, one of our goals is successful partnerships and initiatives with the boss governments, the province and the country. How are we doing on that front? Anything we can brag about there yet?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there, kind of speaking to what the first of the three prongs that you mentioned that you were looking for when this was kind of kicking off a few years ago. We always aim to collaborate and work with other levels of government to advance climate action, even with the regional government on exploring district energy opportunities, or larvicide programs related to West Nile virus as warmer temperatures can accelerate mosquito development We also partner with other lower tier municipalities within our region to pursue, funding applications or grants and to exchange learnings and best practices. In terms of the federal government and the province, I think the funding that we've secured for electric vehicles, electric buses, through the Investing in Canada infrastructure program to begin to transition our fleet of buses to electric over time, with the first ones coming into operation this year. So I think that's a good example. Even retrofits, which we've talked about quite a bit today, the funding for the retrofit study was through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities through their Green Municipal Fund, which is funded by the federal government. That's funding that we obtained in partnership with Oakville Enterprises Corporation. And last year, we actually brought forward our first report on priority intergovernmental requests to council, which formalized many of our requests from other levels of government, many of which did touch on environmental sustainability and climate action. Mr. Mayor, you'll be well familiar with the auto industry advocacy on electric vehicles for, common standards and regulations, as well as calling for green building standards and, flood mitigation funding for improving stormwater infrastructure. So we know council is keen on advancing cooperation with other levels of government, and that has certainly trickled down to town staff. And really to drive the type of climate action that we do need to work closely with other levels of government, especially the higher order ones.
Yeah, the Green Building Code item that you mentioned is especially instructive. It was a real educational experience for me and council. I don't think when we started that we knew that the building code has a continuous improvement angle to it led by the federal government. And there's always every 5 years or so, as I understand it, a new greener building code. And I think I've heard that the 2035 version is supposed to be zero footprint or super green. Can you delve into that a bit? Because I know it used to be popular at public meetings for people to say, and everybody ought to have a building, a green building code. And the explanation would usually be, well, we don't set the building code. And so it's probably worthwhile for people who are interested in this topic to understand how the country drags itself forward in 5-year steps, it sounds like.
Yeah, certainly, green development standards, green building code has come up quite a bit as a topic of discussion with, varying opinions on whether that's something that, or how exactly the town can advance that, whether it's, perhaps potentially looking at, expediting certain applications that align with a certain level of green building standards. This is something that we've looked at in our new strategic plan as well and have elevated in our action plan as one item to develop green development standards over this term of council. But we certainly will need to work closely with other levels of government to advance that as far as we can.
Well, I know that we, in the rest of this term and over the next 3 years, we have to update our official plan to make it conform to all the new laws and regulations that the province has rained down on us in the last 3 years. And one of the goals of the public and council is to incorporate a climate crisis lens into the OP, which is going some, since normally that's not something I think we're even allowed to put into an OP. But nevertheless, that's our impossible goal. I say impossible goal in the sense of impossible dream. We'll obviously get there, but we'll have to be clever and work hard. The other question I have for you is, for the three of you is, council is very big on having key performance indicators to judge progress by. And actually, I hear from the public quite a lot that they like us to have those. Where are our KPIs for climate change?
Yeah, I can probably start off on that. One of the challenges around embedding climate considerations into decision-making in our operations is the data piece. And as we were developing the strategic plan, we have several, key community indicators, as we're calling them, to sort of elevate for, heightened importance and accountability. So we've developed a handful, well, we have a whole host of other ones that are included as part of the budget process. Some in particular that we're looking at from a strategic planning perspective are reduction in corporate greenhouse gas emissions, residential energy usage per capita, green area per 100,000 population, and dollars of stormwater infrastructure investment. Again, these are not all the indicators that we have related to climate and sustainability. There's several more at the departmental and commission level that we do report on through the budget process. But these 4 or 5 were selected just to kind of give a sampling of some really important ones that we think are key to keep track of.
So it's an important point for the comfort of the taxpayer to know that we don't just spend money in the name of climate change. We look for effective steps that will actually produce a measurable result. And if there's no measurable result, the money dries up. How can people get a copy of the climate change progress report that council is going to see tonight?
Once we present it to council tonight, we usually do post it on our website until the next report comes out. So it will be on the environment and energy section of the town's website after tonight's meeting.
So maybe on one of the Wednesday night mayor and council electronic newsletter nights, we could push that out, and that might be another way to get the word out. Maybe we'll do that. All right. Well, thank you very much for the answers and all the hard work that you're doing for the town. And thank you for joining us and showing your concern for climate change and what we're doing to fight it. You can subscribe to that newsletter I just described by writing to the mayor@oakville.ca. And I'd also always be happy to hear from you about topics you'd like to see covered here on Oakville Matters. Thanks so much for being a part of our town and making your contribution to our town's success. And we'll see you again next time on Oakville Matters.